News Conference Extra with Conan Nolan.
Good morning and welcome to News Conference Extra, a special segment of Today in LA Weekend. Joining us, Chuck Todd, host of Meet the Press, airs every Sunday morning at 8 o'clock here on NBC4. So, Chuck, with the airstrike on the Iranian general this past, well, it's been more than a week now, you get the impression that Joe Biden sees this moment. This is a commander-in-chief moment. This is the guy with all the foreign policy experience, and this is exactly where the campaign, this was the kind of issue they want him to talk about, which was world affairs, military action, and stuff he's been part of for his entire political career, pretty much. Yeah.
But he's not alone here. Bernie Sanders also sees this Iran moment as this perfect moment for him, too. And I have found it fascinating. I think I've talked to both campaigns about this. They both think Iran's an asset for them. That what Iran does is what you just described with Biden. The Sanders people see that as an asset. Anytime they can distinguish themselves, they believe that Biden has foreign policy baggage. They think that Iraq war vote is a problem, and if they can have an opportunity to make it a relevant part of the conversation, and they haven't had that opportunity much, and that's what they think this brings back up, right? An opportunity to bring that back up. I think you're right. The Biden people also view this as, hey, who do you want out there making these decisions? Are you nervous about Donald Trump? Do you know who these other people are in the field? You know I've been there. So I think both Sanders and Biden think this helps them. And frankly, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm not sure which one is right. They both have a theory here. Then you see parts of this electorate. The Democratic electorate is pretty skeptical on military confrontation in the Middle East in general. And you know, so I don't think this is a slam dunk for Biden per se. And I know that Sanders folks don't think that either. Where is the Democratic electorate on this? Are they going to be comforted by Biden or think, you know what, gosh, this foreign policy establishment, go with one of the guys that's promising a full pullout?
That's the Democratic side. This was also, you could make the argument, a good week for the president. The narrative here is that the president did something that George Bush and Barack Obama would have loved to do, but they didn't have the guts to do it. He had the guts to do it, and they went eye to eye, and the Iranians blinked.
And if this is the end of the story, Conan, and tomorrow's election day, yeah, that's what he can say, and I think the voters might tend to see it similarly. I think what we don't know is what is the next 6 months, what's going to come in the next 6 months. Asymmetrical warfare is normally the way Iran operates. Most people expect them to do something else. Are we kicked out of Iraq, right? Does the Iraqi government force us to leave the country? What does that do with ISIS? So I think in the near term, the president feels good, and I get why he does. I would just be very careful when it comes to Iran with spiking a football. And any president that tries to spike the football in the Middle East ought to remember things like George W. Bush and Mission Accomplished, Barack Obama and al-Qaeda's been eliminated, and the terrorist threat is no longer what it was. Then came ISIS, right? You got to be careful when you get declarative about actions in the Middle East.
Right, but doesn't this put Democrats in an awkward position on Capitol Hill? You'll have people, we'll be interviewing Adam Schiff and Brad Sherman in a moment, where they say, listen, this was a really bad guy responsible for the deaths of hundreds of U.S. service personnel, killed thousands of Arabs on behalf of Bashar al-Assad in Syria. And so, yeah, it's good he's dead, but we didn't like the way it was done.
See, I actually think it's actually bigger than just that. Yes, I think this is a tougher thing for the Democrats to talk about. You know, sort of what it was Nancy Pelosi's line the other day was, it's not about whether Soleimani was a bad guy. It's about, you know, how good are we? But I'll tell you, I think this is the big divide in American politics. You have a chunk of the country who is an ends justifies the means type of player. Not really. Let's not worry about how you get there. It's the results I care about, and they're the most. You know, those are the most devoted Trump supporters, are that ends justify the means type. And I think when you look at the Democrats these days, they're very much looking at the means a lot more than the ends.
Handicap the debate on Tuesday. What should we be looking for?
What I'm curious about is the Biden, Bernie, Iran foreign policy confrontation. It's going to come. It's inevitable. Does it so consume the conversation that it becomes whose side are you on, Bernie's side or Biden's side? And that's not good for Buttigieg, Warren, and Klobuchar, who want to have their own sides on this, right? We know that Klobuchar and Buttigieg probably sort of side on Biden, and you have Warren kind of sides on with Bernie. But I think for those three candidates not named Bernie and Biden, it's how do they not allow the narrative to consume them from the Bernie versus Biden sort of clash, and the big clash being on foreign affairs.
Right, and it would seem to me it focuses attention on the leader of the moderate wing of the party and the leader on the progressive wing of the party, because that's the subset here going into Iowa.
That's right, and it almost mutes everybody else underneath. But there's a danger for both of them. They can't look like the two old Muppets yelling at each other in the upper parts of the balcony either, okay? Like it's this, I mean, I don't think that's a good look for them either. Do they look like the two leaders of the two wings of the party and this is the fight going to the convention? Or is it, oh my God, we can't have the two old guys fighting this way, go with somebody younger like Klobuchar or Buttigieg? So there's risk there for Biden and Bernie as well.
Who's on the program this morning?
I'll have the President's National Security Advisor, Robert O'Brien, Rand Paul, one of the few Republican senators who pushes back on the president's foreign policy, and we're going to be talking to one of those senators who has to be an impeachment juror in the day and a presidential candidate at night, Michael Bennet of Colorado.
Always a pleasure. Chuck Todd, host of Meet the Press, 8 o'clock Sunday morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Conan.
On News Conference following Meet the Press at 9 o'clock, we will be talking with Adam Schiff and Congressman Brad Sherman about what happened, plus the leader of the Simon Wiesenthal Center, Rabbi Marvin Hier, and a representative from the Organization of Iranian American Communities. That's News Conference at 9 following Meet the Press. We'll see you then.